Hello, welcome to OJ Studios. Please enjoy this week's chapter of In Pigtails and Protection by Olivia Julius.
I stared at the light blue leotard and white tights, trying to keep my face neutral, but inside, a swirl of confusion and dread hit me. Ballet? Of all things, this was not something I'd ever thought I'd have to deal with, not in my old life as Tony, and certainly not now as Tina. The fabric seemed delicate, soft, and completely foreign to the tough exterior I used to wear as a shield. Isabella, however, was excited, her eyes twinkling with anticipation as she stood in front of me. "You love ballet, Tina. It's a great way to stay fit, and it's kind of like a tradition here at Harmony Lake. Plus, it's fun once you get the hang of it. Trust me." I forced a smile, but my thoughts were racing. How was I going to pull this off? Dancing around in tights and a leotard? It felt like the ultimate test of this new life I'd been thrust into. But there was no getting out of it, at least not without raising suspicion. And if there was one thing I couldn't afford, it was drawing unnecessary attention. "I don't know," I said hesitantly. Isabella gave me an encouraging smile, clearly not picking up on my reluctance. "Don't worry, Tina. Everyone's a bit nervous at first, but once you start, it's really not that bad. You'll be fine." She picked up the leotard, holding it up like it was some kind of prized treasure. "Plus, you've already proven you've got some rhythm, right? You nailed that song at the talent show." I forced a chuckle, trying to hide my unease. Rhythm or not, ballet was a whole different world. In my old life, I dealt with hardened criminals and high-stakes negotiations, not pirouettes and pliés. But here I was, handed a leotard like it was some kind of invitation into this new, confusing reality. Isabella leaned in, whispering as if sharing a secret. "It's really not that serious, I promise. It's just me and you, and we're staying in the storm room. If you don't like it then I won't push you further." I hesitated, looking at the leotard again. Maybe Isabella was right, maybe it wasn't a big deal. And in a strange way, trying to blend in with the other girls, participating in something as innocent as ballet, could help me stay under the radar. Besides, it seemed like Isabella really wanted to share this with me, and earning her trust was key to my mission. "Alright," I finally said, exhaling a breath I didn't realize I was holding. "I'll give it a try." Isabella's face lit up with excitement. "Yay! You'll see, it'll be fun. We'll start small, nothing too intense." I picked up the leotard, feeling the soft fabric between my fingers. It was such a stark contrast to the life I used to live. But as I stood there, looking at Isabella's genuine smile, I reminded myself that adapting was part of survival. This was just another role I had to play, and like every mission before, I'd find a way to get through it. Isabella told me to get changed in the dorm while she changed in the communal bathroom down the hall. The moment Isabella left the room, I held the leotard up again, staring at it like it was some foreign object. It felt like a strange costume, a disguise that was more about blending in with this world of little girls than anything else. With a deep breath, I slipped out of my uniform and then I felt Tina take over. I got everything off of me, and then I put on the white tights with practiced ease, as if I had been doing it my whole life. The way Tina's body responded to the act of dressing for ballet was unsettling, but there was no use fighting it now. I slid the light blue leotard over my shoulders, the material soft and snug against my skin. The tights felt strange, clinging to my legs in a way that made me feel even more out of place. I stood in front of the mirror, staring at the reflection that wasn't mine, this small, delicate girl in a ballet outfit, her dark hair falling in soft waves over her shoulders. The image was so far removed from the hardened enforcer I used to be that it almost felt like looking at a stranger. But that was the reality now. I had to embrace it, no matter how uncomfortable it made me. As I adjusted the straps of the leotard, Isabella returned, her own leotard a soft pink that contrasted with mine. She grinned, clearly pleased to see that I'd followed through. "You look great, Tina!" she said, walking over to grab her ballet shoes from her bag. "Let's just practice a little! We don't have to do anything complicated." I nodded, still trying to get used to the tightness of the leotard and the strange sensation of the tights. Isabella didn't seem to notice my discomfort. She was too excited, pulling out a small speaker from her bag and connecting it to her MP3 player. Soft classical music began to fill the room, the gentle notes immediately setting the mood. Isabella demonstrated a few basic positions, explaining them in simple terms. "This is first position," she said, placing her feet together and turning them out slightly. "You can do it, just follow along." I stiffly started to move waiting for Tina to take over, but I didn't feel her presence. I stood frozen, waiting for the strange, automatic control that Tina's instincts had over me earlier, but nothing happened. It was just me, Tony, awkwardly standing in a ballet leotard, trying to mimic Isabella's graceful movements. I felt stiff, every movement foreign and clumsy compared to the fluidity that Isabella demonstrated. Isabella smiled encouragingly as she corrected my form. "It's okay, Tina! You're doing fine! Just relax and let your body follow the music." I tried to relax, but it was harder than it sounded. My mind was constantly at war with my body. On the one hand, I wanted to resist the absurdity of this situation, but on the other, I knew that blending in was crucial. So, I focused on her instructions, doing my best to copy the positions. My arms were tense as I tried to hold them in the graceful arcs she demonstrated, but they felt rigid, like they didn't belong to me. Isabella showed me a simple plie, bending her knees with effortless grace. I followed suit, my movements stiff, but I managed to mirror her enough to not embarrass myself. I could feel the tight stretch of the leotard in tights with every movement, a constant reminder of how far I was from the life I used to know. Isabella gave me a nod of approval. "You're getting it! See, it's not so bad!" I let out a small breath. "Yeah, it's different," I admitted, still feeling the strangeness of the entire situation. I glanced at her and added, "But you're a good teacher." Her eyes lit up with pride. "Thanks! I've been doing ballet since I was 5, so it's kind of my thing. We don't have to go any faster, though. Just let me know if it's too much." We continued for a while, practicing simple moves, pliés, relevés, and a few stretches. Isabella was patient, correcting my form gently whenever I messed up. I began to settle into a rhythm, feeling a bit more comfortable, though I was far from graceful. The ballet was calming, in a way, as the soft music filled the room and the steady flow of movements gave me something to focus on other than the chaos of this new life. But I still wondered where was Tina. Every time I did something even remotely girly, Tina always made an appearance taking over and doing it. Where was she now? After about 20 minutes, Isabella stopped and wiped her brow. "You're doing great, Tina! We should practice a little bit each day. You'll be a pro in no time." I gave her a weak smile, still trying to adjust to the idea of ballet practice as part of my daily life. "Thanks, Isabella! I'll keep trying." Isabella looked at her alarm clock and saw what time it was. "We better get dressed," she said, "dinner is in a half hour." I nodded and went to my wardrobe and looked inside of it for anything to wear to dinner. I quickly changed out of the ballet leotard and tights, the soft fabric clinging to my skin for just a moment longer than I wanted it to. It was still a strange feeling, being in such delicate clothing, practicing something as foreign as ballet, but at least Isabella had made it easier with her enthusiasm. I grabbed my regular clothes and slipped into a simple outfit for dinner, a plain red shirt and jeans. It felt more natural, more like me, well, the me that I used to be. As I got dressed, I kept glancing at Isabella, who was already picking out her own outfit, completely at ease in this world that was so alien to me. Her lightheartedness was a small comfort, a reminder that not everything here had to be so overwhelming. I watched as she selected a casual dress and shoes, and I wondered how she could balance everything so effortlessly, unaware of the danger that lurked around her. Once we were both ready, Isabella looked over at me with a grin. "You did great today, Tina! I knew you'd be a natural!" I smiled back, feeling a small sense of accomplishment. "Thanks, Isabella! I wouldn't have done it without your help." "Hey, that's what friends are for!" she replied, her eyes twinkling with genuine warmth. That word, friends, caught me off guard for a moment. Despite the mission, despite the strange situation I found myself in, there was something about Isabella's kindness that made it hard to remain detached. I had to protect her, but I was also beginning to care about her in a way I hadn't expected. And that made everything even more complicated. As we made our way down to the 4th grade dining hall, the familiar hum of the other girls' chatter filled the air. The dining hall was lively as usual, and the smell of food wafting from the kitchen made my stomach growl. I hadn't realized how hungry I was after the strange day of ballet practice in school. Isabella led the way, grabbing a tray and heading for the food line. I followed suit, glancing around the room. The energy in the dining hall was different now that the first day of school was behind us. The excitement had worn off, and a sort of routine was settling in. I watched as groups of girls laughed, chatted, and bonded over the day's events. It was a typical scene, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that this normal was temporary. With Maria's icy glare still fresh in my mind, I knew this calm wouldn't last forever. As Isabella and I took our seats at one of the tables, she immediately launched into a conversation about our favorite ballet performances, completely oblivious to the undercurrents of tension I was feeling. Her world was one of grace, elegance, and safety, mine, not so much. But here, I had to play the part, nodding along, keeping up the appearance of a typical 4th grader while always staying alert. After dinner I grabbed the laptop out of my book bag. I put it on and turned it on. The laptop started to turn on normally. Loading the familiar school crest on the screen, I couldn't shake the unease that had settled in the back of my mind about these laptops. They seemed like innocuous tools for education, but something about the suddenness of their introduction and the seamless setup made me suspicious. I needed to be careful, just in case. As the laptop booted up, Isabella was already on her bed, casually flipping through a book she grabbed from the library earlier. The light in the room was dim, casting soft shadows as the evening settled in. I opened the browser, planning to explore the system a bit more, checking for anything out of place. Scrolling through the interface, everything appeared standard. There were links to the school's library, online assignments, and even a section for video conferencing. Nothing unusual at first glance. I tried opening the File Explorer, but something caught my eye. There was a hidden folder, tucked away, and I wouldn't have noticed it if I wasn't actively searching. The name was innocuous, System Resources, but my instincts told me there was more to it. Before I could dive deeper, Isabella interrupted my focus. "Hey, Tina, what are you working on?" she asked, her voice light. I quickly minimized the window, not wanting to raise any suspicion. "Just looking through some of the files, making sure I know how to use everything for class." She nodded, seemingly uninterested, and returned to her book. I glanced back at the screen, making a mental note to investigate the folder later when I had more privacy. For now, I couldn't afford to draw too much attention to myself. The rest of the evening passed quietly. We worked on our laptops, occasionally chatting about random things, mostly Isabella's plans for the upcoming week. Despite the weight of my mission, the normalcy of the evening felt strangely comforting. But deep down, I knew that this calm wouldn't last. The hidden folder, the tension with Maria, and the complexity of my new life as Tina were all reminders that I was living on borrowed time. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, and I had to be ready for whatever came next. I closed the laptop, set it aside, and climbed into bed. The soft rustle of Isabella turning a page filled the quiet room as I stared up at the ceiling. Sleep would come eventually, but for now, my mind raced with the lingering questions I couldn't yet answer. As the night deepened, one thought echoed louder than the rest: how long could I keep this up?